So hello everybody, welcome to your Finding Work Without Work Experience webinar. My name is Abby, I am a project manager here at The Switch. We're really excited to have you here with us today. I'm going to be the lead facilitator on the call today, so I'm going to be taking you through today's topics. And my pronouns are she and her if you want to ask me any questions. I'm also joined on the call today with my colleagues Dominique and Faith. So you'll see them helping with the technical support. So they'll be looking at all the questions you put in the chat and just monitoring things if you have any technical issues. So just a little bit of context as to sort of who we are before we get started in the webinar, in case you're not familiar with us already. So The Switch, we're a skills and employability charity. We're very London-based, particularly for Tower Hamlets in East London, and we've been running now for around 30 years. And our mission is essentially to help the young people that we serve in our boroughs to help them think about the careers that they want to do and help them achieve the careers by equipping them with the skills and connections to achieve them. So the webinar today is run under the umbrella of our alumni programme, and that's aimed at 16 to 25-year-olds. And it's really aimed at helping you into the workplace, so helping you at the point of entry by preparing you with things like CV writing skills, interview practice skills, as well as connections and networking as well. So I'll explain a little bit about the programme later on and give you a chance to sign up as well. But for now, we're going to just move straight on to today's webinar content. So today's webinar, as you all know, is all about finding work experience when you don't have a lot of experience already. And it's really looking at this classic dilemma of to get a job, you need experience, but to gain experience, you need the job. So I really like this little diagram here. Perhaps this is where you are at the minute. You might be applying and you're finding yourself in the circle. Perhaps maybe you're wrapping up your studies and starting to think about next steps and have had this thought come into your mind before. And it's certainly a really tricky dilemma, and it can leave you feeling stuck in a never-ending circle. I certainly felt this way when I first started out in my career as well, and it can be daunting and sort of disheartening, seem like an impossible task to get a job if you're finding yourself in this cycle. But just to reassure you, you're not alone in this. Many other people feel exactly the same way. And today we're going to have a look at different sort of strategies to help break that circle. So in terms of today's content, it's split up into 7 mini sections. We're going to be starting by setting the scene and understanding what the employment market is like at the moment, what employers expect from the entry-level applicants, and what the market is like and how what is expected of you when you're applying for jobs at the moment. Then we're going to be exploring non-traditional ways of building your experience, in particular with an emphasis on volunteering. We've invited some local organisations from the borough to share with us some of the opportunities that you can get involved with right now. And I'll explain a little bit about that in a moment. We're also joined by one of our alumni ambassadors, Lucy, on how she found applying to entry-level roles and built up her experience. So we'll get a chance to speak to her as well. Then we're going to shift our focus a little bit onto alternative ways of finding work. So using your network to bypass traditional application routes. Then we're going to wrap up by looking at how best to write your CV when you're applying for entry-level roles so that you're submitting something eye-catching. Then at the very end, we're going to have a Q&A with our panelists, so you can ask any questions that you would like and get some answers. And we'll round it off as well just with a quick feedback form, and I'll tell you a little bit more about where to go for more resources through our alumni portal. So that is very much, in a nutshell, the content that we're going to cover today. So before we get started, just a few technical and logistical things to be aware of. For everybody who's just joined, welcome. We are using Microsoft Teams here today, and you'll have noticed that your cameras and microphones have been muted automatically as you joined the call. So what that means is ourselves and the panelists, they can't see or hear you. So if you do want to ask questions, please put them through the Q&A function. And we also have a chat function for you to use in there as well. So please feel free to put in your questions or comments any time through those, either the Q&A or the chat function, and my colleagues Dominique and Faith will pick up on them and bring those to our attention. There's also a raise hand function as well that you can use at the top of your taskbar. So if there are any issues that you want to bring to our attention, please do just use that. You might have already noticed as well, but we are recording this session. So like I mentioned, don't worry if you are joining us now, your cameras are off and you're muted, so you're not going to be recorded. But what this means is that we're able to share it with more people after the event alongside the slides. So if you want a copy of those, they'll be available for you to view afterwards. Today's event should last around one and a half hours, finishing just before 6 o'clock. So very nicely in time for dinner time. Brilliant. So I'd like to take a moment to introduce our two guest speakers. So starting with Lucy, if you don't mind introducing yourself, explain a little bit about what you do and what you're going to be talking about today, please.
Yeah, sure. So, hi guys, I'm Lucy. I am born and bred Tower Hamlets. Lived here my whole life, besides when I moved out for uni. And I currently work for the Ministry of Defence as a support officer, which is quite vague, but it is very broad in what it is. And I'm going to be speaking to you about my volunteering experience and how that has helped me get to where I am today, hopefully.
Fabulous, thank you, Lucy. And then I'm passing over to Katy.
Afternoon all, I'm Katy Thompson. I manage the volunteers at SpotLigh. At SpotLigh though, we call our volunteers VIT, so a very important team. And so I'll be talking a little bit about how volunteering can help catapult you in your career interests.
Fabulous, thank you both. So yeah, we'll be getting the chance to hear from both of them a little bit later on. So to start off with, to set the scene about what the job market is like. I'm sure you're all very well aware that the job market at the minute is not a job seekers one. It's very competitive, and I'm sure that's why you're all here today. Perhaps some of you have been applying and not getting many roles, or you're finding it difficult to find roles that are in the fields that you want to do. But it is a really, really difficult market to be applying in. Typically as well, entry-level roles are more competitive than an average role, and it might seem obvious, but you know, because they are more accessible and don't require as many qualifications, being entry-level roles, they are broader. They're open to a broader candidate pool than sort of typical more experienced roles. So you're going to be competing against a lot more other people than later in your career, for example, when you're being more experienced. There's also a big topic at the moment about lots of candidates being underemployed. So lots of candidates having lots of qualification and work experience, but still not getting through, particularly in corporate jobs, because there's so many candidates out there with work experience with very strong academic qualifications as well. And there's some statistics that kind of back this up as well, just as alongside personal experience. But we've got a statistic here that 51.3% of entry-level jobs require prior working experience. So over half of all entry-level jobs, despite being your first entry point into the workplace, required prior work experience. So I know that's setting a really bleak picture, but I don't want to missell you that this webinar is going to be the be-all and end-all solution to your application, you know, your job applications. what we're doing here is trying to equip you with as many tools as possible to give you the best chance at applying, but it is a competitive job market out there, and it is really, really tough. So don't want to sugarcoat that at all. It will likely require persistence and a lot of hard work to get into the roles that you want to go into. So that being said, I know that sounds very, very daunting, but there is lots of stuff that you can do to develop your skills, bolster your CV, and then stand out from the crowd when applying for jobs. It's not all doom and gloom. There is hope on the horizon as well. So one of the things I want to start off the webinar with is there's a lot of research at the minute going into how much employers are really valuing those work experience and qualifications. And how much first impressions count. When faced with a very wide candidate pool, the way you present yourself can set yourself apart from other candidates. Employers aren't just looking for employees who are qualified, they're looking for people who will stay with the company, that can grow with the company, develop, bring new life into it, new entrepreneurship into the business. And they're looking for people who not only excel academically and with work experience, but also somebody who's a nice fit for their company culture. And they recognise that it's hard. And we've all been there. It's very hard to get your foot on the career ladder, and they recognise that it's not always easy to get your foot through the door. So there's research coming out that suggests that when it comes to recruiting, particularly graduates, employers are really valuing your personality and your attitudes over the work experience that you have. And if you're on a level playing field with thousands of other applicants who have the same level of qualifications, maybe the same level of work experience, this is what can really set you apart. In particular, things like a positive attitude to work, so maintaining, making sure you're being positive and not negative about your work, being on time, being flexible, being reliable, being very communicative, and the ability to give that professional first impression are all really crucial and can all make the difference. There's a statistic done by UCAS, who are the University Applications Organisation, that suggests that nearly half of employers hadn't hired a young person because they felt they didn't have the right attitude. So, really you can set yourself apart by making sure you're giving that really great first impression. And as to why this is important, so it comes down to it's expensive to hire. It's really expensive to hire and let them go sort of 6 months later down the line after they've been recruited. On average, an entry-level employee turnover cost is between 30 and 50% of their annual salary to replace. So what that means is if you are hiring a graduate at £20,000 a year, you're looking at £6,000 minimum to replace them. And that is things like recruitment costs, advertising, the time spent going into interviewing, that kind of thing. So employers don't want to be in that position. They don't want to be losing money. They want to hire somebody who is good and is going to stay with them and give them a good return for their money. And because of that, they want to see somebody who not only models their business values, but somebody who they see longevity in, that they can invest in, perhaps grow them, set them on a career path within the company. And so if you can demonstrate that at the point of application and interview, it is quite surprising how much that can affect your application, give you a boost up, because companies really want long-standing good employees as part of that. So that was just a little bit about attitudes and just really re-emphasizing the point of how important making a good first impression is with that. Now on to sort of the nitty and gritty of building your skill set and building that work experience. I know for some of you, you might not have had any work experience previously before. Some of you might have, and questions about how do I get more, that sort of thing. This is what this section is going to cover. So there's a big conception, especially when I'm going into workshops and speaking to young people. A lot of the questions I get asked is, do I need to have formal work experience to demonstrate my skills? And it's a very common misconception. You don't need to have the formal work experience in an industry that you're interested in to be able to demonstrate your skills. Absolutely, it's beneficial if you do have that. You know, having a big name behind you on your CV is fantastic. And you know, you can demonstrate that you're committed to that industry, that sort of thing. But there's lots of other ways you can talk about your skills in interview or CV that you might not have considered. So we just wanted to list some of the activities that you might not have thought about when preparing your CV. So one of the things that if I sit down with a young person and you know they tell me they don't have formal work experience, we kind of brainstorm together what they've done, think back across maybe their school career, university career, as to what activities they've done both inside school and academia and out as well. And really the reason why we want to bring these to your attention is just because you will be developing skills within these activities and not perhaps realizing it. And these are all really great opportunities to really highlight those skills to employers. So even if you don't have that formal work experience, you can say, I have these skills and this is where I've demonstrated them. So just wanted to run through a couple of examples that you might not have thought of. So the first one being competitions. I know there's a lot of competitions out there, particularly for things like science projects, sustainability, perhaps coding. They're all really great skills to demonstrate, you know, not only ambition, but also teamwork, awareness of deadlines, time management, that kind of thing. Perhaps you've done a competition either in academia or out that you might have done. The second is music and drama. Have you worked part in team as part of an orchestra? Can you demonstrate your communication skills or presentation skills, maybe even through a play that you've acted in, those kinds of things. A lot of these sort of activities are stuff that kind of gets put to the back of the brain that people never really think about as to draw upon for work experience, but actually there's lots of skills that you will have developed through doing these things. Sports as well, playing as part of a team, maybe football, maybe hockey, that kind of thing. Again, you can draw on skills like resilience and communication. Team projects, just generally, whether you've worked as part of a team, either on a certain topic, maybe you had to do a presentation to somebody. That's all really great examples to draw upon. Languages is also one that's often forgotten a lot as well. Maybe you've been practicing your Duolingo every day, getting your Duolingo streak, or maybe you speak another language at home. People often think, you know, that their second language isn't something they can put on. Absolutely, that's something that you can draw upon. Hobbies as well, anything outside of this that might not have mentioned. So things like, have you been running a craft club or maybe a book club with friends? That's all absolutely fantastic examples of demonstrating organisational skills as well. Event planning, if you've ever organised an event, perhaps for a society or for your school, again, really great ways to demonstrate your skills, not just organisation, time management, stakeholder engagement, you're talking to different types of people, that kind of thing. Fundraising as well, particularly for charities. If you'd like to come work with a charity like The Switch, fundraising is definitely something that we look out for. It's a great way to demonstrate, you know, if you've organised perhaps a bake sale or a sleep out, not just demonstrating financial skills, but also organisation skills there as well. And then lastly, online courses. So there's lots and lots of online providers out there who do free online courses, things like virtual work experience as well. Have you ever taken part in anything like that that's given you a certificate that you could add to your CV to bulk it out? That said, the main thing that we want to promote today is volunteering. We're biased, of course, because we are a charity and volunteering forms a key part of everything that we do. But volunteering is a really, really great way to, you know, put your skills and demonstrate them on your CV whilst doing a great thing for charity. Volunteering positions typically are very easy to find. Lots of charities and organisations need lots of volunteers, so typically you'll find lots of them in different organisations, local ones as well as national ones. and the variety of different types of roles available. So there's anything from coming into working with young people to being in a storefront, perhaps even being behind the scenes doing administrative tasks. So a variety of different roles. And you'll often find that those tasks are very similar to the ones that you would undertake in paid work as well. So there's a lot of overlap with these different sort of tasks that you can directly relate to your job applications. It also impresses employers by showing that you're dedicated and willing to give up your time. If you can demonstrate, that you are committed, that you are happy to work a full working day, they like to see that. And you'll also get a professional reference at the end. So when you're doing your job applications and an employer is asking for a reference, either for character or whether you to confirm whether you did that experience, you'll be able to have a trusted organisation who can give you that professional reference that they're asking for. And as well, it just also helps a cause that matters to you. So on the next slide, just got a couple of example of roles that are common in volunteering and the different skills that you can draw upon from them in case you hadn't sort of thought of that already. So an example role might be working with children and young people. This is something that I do in my job, and a lot of our business volunteers who come to our workshops, they do as well. And a lot of the skills that you could demonstrate and take from that are sort of leadership, you're being excellent role models to the community, you're working with young people, particularly if you're wanting to go into something like teaching, you can directly use that as experience alongside that as well. Assisting at food banks or soup kitchens, particularly in the cost of living crisis. I know there's a lot of food banks who are desperate for volunteers, and some of the skills that you can draw from that are organisation, planning what kind of food is going to be on for that week, planning where the food's going to be sourced from, how it's going to be delivered, that kind of thing, as well as customer service. You might be front facing and delivering the food to those service users. So you'll get a little bit of customer service experience doing that. Also, administration and data processing. If you're behind the scenes, you can demonstrate IT skills. So perhaps you're using Microsoft Office, writing letters, maybe using Microsoft Words, maybe using Outlook, doing emails, all really, really great experience to draw upon, as well as just being in an office. For a lot of people, the first time in a big office can be really daunting and quite scary. So if you've done that previously in a volunteer role, that will really help you settle in quite quickly into a formal job role. And then one of the common ones people think about is working on the floor in charity shops. Most local high streets will have charity shops for different charities. And whether you're working sort of on the tills or behind the scenes, really great experience if you're wanting to go into retail, for example, but also cash handling, you're looking at the money, you're monitoring card payments, that kind of thing. Stock management, you're monitoring where the stock's coming from, how much is going out, as well as that client-facing customer service as well. So really just wanted to re-emphasize just how much volunteering can help you demonstrate those skills. There's only 4 there, but there's loads and loads and loads that you could go into, that all really great transferable skills on that. So I'm now going to pass on to Katy, who works for SpotLigh, who are a local youth centre. So Katy, if it's all right, can I please pass on to you just to explain a little bit more about the work SpotLigh do and the opportunities you have for young people? She might not be there. Okay, well, oh yeah, she is there.
Hello.
Hi, Katy.
Apologies, just sorting out my phone. Hi.
That's okay.
Cool, I'll get started. I know I haven't got that much time. But good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining this webinar today. As Abigail introduced, I'm just going to share a little bit about the volunteering experience. So I said at the start, I manage the volunteers here at SpotLigh. However, we don't call our team volunteers. We call them very important team members. And at SpotLigh, we're not really traditional in a sense that we bring volunteers or work experience students on board and they just do the day-to-day like admin and clean up for us. it's really important that when you're taking part in these volunteering opportunities that you gain as much as possible. It's more of a give and take relationship rather than you just giving your all and your efforts and your time and not getting much in return apart from some words on a piece of paper. So when exploring volunteering opportunities, it's best to look at a way of what is the career that you're interested in, and you just investing in it personally. And I feel like volunteering is a really great way of you just trialing out different career interests, because there are opportunities or career pathways that might spark interest, and then when you're actually in the thick of it, you realize it's not something that matches your personality, for example, or the workload. You didn't realize what was entailed in that sort of career pathway. So I'll give you a bit of insight at SpotLigh. SpotLigh, we're a creative youth hub. We're a multi-million-pound building, and in our rooms, everything and anything to do with creative art and upskilling and encouraging our young people to aspire to any sort of career interest that they have in mind. So with our volunteers, we have a very mixed bag of people who come down and put in their effort and spend some time with us and our young people. So I recruit by interests and by commitments. So interest is dependent on like personal hobbies that people have. So we have people that do a 9 to 5. In fact, I'll give you a great example. Someone that works in a corporate job. I say 9 to 5, but he works around the clock. And he absolutely loves music, and he comes to SpotLigh, volunteers at SpotLigh as part of his outlet. And that actually helps him in his normal job because he's been able to have that outlet and that sort of social interaction that you don't get at a desk. It puts him in the right frame of mind when he's going back to work the following day or the following week. Then you also have people who come on board as volunteers because they have placements, so university students and college students and school students who want to explore a certain career pathway and just want to kind of break into that industry. And so coming here at SpotLigh is one of the ways in which to do so. So even though they're at SpotLigh, we are a youth hub, because we offer so many different activities, someone can solely work in our media suite and do filmography, and that's part of their work experience or their placement or their voluntary time. Or someone can solely do youth theatre because drama or script writing is something that they're really interested in and want to break into that industry. It's really open. And the way I like to work, especially with the younger VITs, so very important team members, is looking at what is that you want to get into. So I know I can't see your faces, but if I can give you all an exercise for about 10 seconds, so just close your eyes. While your eyes are closed, just imagine yourselves in 5 years' time. So if you're 17 now, you would be 22 in 5 years' time. If you're 21 now, you'd be 26 in 5 years' time. Yeah, so let's look at it that way. In 5 years' time, what does your life look like? What are the sort of friends or family that are around you? Do you still see yourself living in Tower Hamlets, working in Tower Hamlets? What sort of opportunities do you want to come your way? And that's the best way to kind of approach these sort of volunteering experiences, is to know what it is that you want to try out. And I keep using the term or phrase trial out because that's what volunteering is. I don't feel like you should approach it just to, gain the experience because you want to go in a certain pathway. Definitely use it to your advantage, because at the end of the day, any company or organization that you come into, you'll be an asset. And so we definitely want to invest in those assets and provide you with all the experiences and all the tools that you need to then come on board. And that's how most companies, organizations approach volunteers, is because we're really investing in you in a way that's not monetary. We want it to be a space that you stay on board and a space that you can see yourself long term in. So definitely get what you can from those experiences. Again, more than happy to answer any questions later or to offer any opportunities to those that want to come and volunteer at SpotLigh or want to gain a further understanding of what there is to offer here at SpotLigh or in local Tower Hamlets. And I can give you a few examples of so the way I work with my team is pretty much informal, and so I do push my team's boundaries. Whenever you show an interest, I'm like, all right, cool, that's what we're going to work towards. And so a couple of my BIT members, I'll give an example of one that wants to work with young people. She wants to be a youth worker or social worker. She's still exploring between the two, and with that, I take on quite a few tricks and I bring her into meetings so she can better understand like the behind the scenes of what it is to be a youth worker. So everyone kind of thinks it's like being on the ground and talking to young people and playing games, and really it's a lot more that goes behind the scenes of becoming a youth worker. So we've gone on trips to Birmingham, to the Ministry of Justice annual seminar, because again, all young people experiences loads of different lifestyles, and it's great to kind of understand how best to support different types of young people. We've also gone to met quite a few people, different spheres of youth work, and I also have VITs who've later then become permanent staff members at SpotLigh as well. Again, because we're investing in you from the start, we're starting to pick up the sort of like, we're training you in our specialized way. In a way, we're kind of molding you to SpotLigh staff members. And so whenever vacancies come up, I put forward the VITs I feel like would be best suited to that sort of role. So since I came on board at SpotLigh last January, I've had 3 of my VIT members come on as permanent staff members in their respective fields. So I had one person who wants to be a social worker, and now she works directly with young people or young adults as part of an NHS contract. So she works partly with the NHS referrals, and then also signposting them to SpotLigh as well. And I also have a youth worker, well, an ex-VIT member who's now a youth worker, and another one coming on board as a youth worker as well. So again, definitely enter your volunteering experiences in knowing what it is that you want to get out of it, not just you giving, but also taking from this experience. Don't be afraid to network whilst you're at your placements or organisations or company. I very much encourage my team to network and to see what more they can get from those sort of experiences as well. So as I said, I will be here at the end to answer any questions and anything else that you have, sort of like comments, thoughts, or anything you'd like me to answer, whether about SpotLigh or about volunteering in general.
Fabulous, thank you, Katie. Just wanted to ask, can you give like a very quick synopsis of like what a VIT does? Like, what if you were to volunteer at SpotLigh, what kind of stuff would you get involved with?
Sure. So at SpotLigh, we work in 3 subgroups. So the first subgroup are called SpotLigh reps, so 14 to 16 years of age, and they're existing SpotLigh members, and they act as positive role models for the other young people who attend SpotLigh. And they also encourage young people to attend the sessions at SpotLigh as well, just to try something new. Then we have the youth VITs, who are 17 to 18, and they do everything that SpotLigh Rep does. So they're positive role models, encourage young people to attend the sessions, but the youth VITs also helps set up and pack down sessions. And I also expect the youth VITs to challenge poor behaviour. So if there's like a young person swearing, for example, then they're the ones who kind of like pull them up and remind them of the SpotLigh rules. Then we have the adult VITs who are 19 plus. They do everything SpotLigh Rep does. So positive role models, encourage them to attend sessions. Everything a youth VIT does, helps set up, pack down sessions, challenge poor behaviour. But they can also deliver their own sessions as well. And our adult VITs have safeguarding responsibility. So I process enhanced DBSs for all of my adult VITs. So if you don't have one, that money doesn't come out your pocket. We pay for it on your behalf as well.
Amazing, fabulous, thank you so much. Yeah, it sounds like really great opportunities that you can get involved with, but also, you know, hearing from you that it can directly translate into a formal job offer afterwards is really interesting to hear, and building up that experience as well. Yeah, sounds fabulous, thank you. Brilliant. So before we hear from Lucy, I just wanted to signpost another opportunity that's happening in the borough right now. Idea stores are the Tower Hamlets libraries that we have in the local borough, and they are recruiting right now for volunteers for their reading challenge scheme. So they've given me some slides. I'm just going to quickly explain it through. But again, it's another really great opportunity that if you're looking to build up that work experience, don't know where to start, this is a really, really great way to go for it. So this is aimed at 14 to 17-year-olds. So if that fits you, please do apply. And if you're older, please continue to apply as well. I believe they have other reading schemes, but there's various different branches within the idea stores in the borough. And the reading challenges that they do generally is aimed at 3,000 young people every year. And what it involves is a 1-week placement at an idea store. You help them deliver the reading challenge. You'll be working not just on your own, but with other customer service advisors. And it's all about engaging children and their families. And the young people, the children that you'll be working with, they come to the libraries to read as much as possible over the course of the summer. And your role is really to encourage them to sign up to the challenge, help them pick the books, perhaps maybe even read with them, even navigating things like the website, that kind of thing, games, quizzes and prizes. But there might be opportunities as well to get involved with other things that are happening in the library. So if you have the summer free, you don't have anything planned, this is a really great thing to get involved with. As to why this is useful to you, you'll be able to do work experience to include in your CVs and job applications. Yes, you're not getting paid for it, but you are going to get building those valuable skills. You'll be in a customer facing environment, so not just working with the young people, but their families as well. And experience of working in a team. You'll be learning from each other, working with other young people in the borough, and you'll get an idea of what it's like to run a library, what it's like to be behind the scenes running some of those activities that they do as well. You'll also get feedback on your performance, so they'll feedback to you how you've done, ideas for improvement, anything else that might help you get a job in the future, and you'll get a reference as well. So again, not just for job applications, but if you're currently applying for UCAS or Duke of Edinburgh, this is all really great experiences that you can add to it as well. So if you are interested in doing that, their applications are open right now. Just head over to their website, it's www.ideastore.co.uk, and you can apply directly from there. If you do have any questions on that, please let me know, and I can pass those on to the Idea Store for you. Brilliant. So before moving on, I just wanted to pass it over to Lucy, who is one of our alumni ambassadors. Lucy, you've done a fair bit of volunteering before. Would you be able to perhaps share with us sort of your experiences when applying for your early career roles, and what volunteering you did and how those helped you?
Yeah. So I left uni in September of last year, and I started my most recent job in November. So I'm very new into the working world, and like many of you, I assume, have just been applying or was applying for tons and tons of jobs. That's one thing I realized very quickly, is you need to get very comfortable with rejection, or even sometimes, in most cases, actually comfortable with not hearing any response at all, which is a bit disheartening, but you do learn to just deal with it very quickly and you kind of get on with it. But yeah, volunteering was massively helpful for me in applying for jobs, even getting the current job I'm currently in. So I'll just talk about the job I'm currently in and that interview process. So a bit about me quickly as well. I have an undergraduate degree and a postgraduate degree. And in between those degrees and before it, I managed to get in lots of different types of volunteering experiences. But before I went to uni, I was actually part of the youth council in Tower Hamlets. And that was one of the most useful experiences for me. I think I was on it for 3 years, maybe. And honestly, I cannot, even to this day, I still bring up the youth council in my interviews, even though it was years ago and I've got 2 degrees now. Like, that is still one of the most important experiences for me. So I spoke about that a lot in my most recent interview, and I would say the youth council was just a great experience to develop loads of those skills that Abby was talking about earlier. So for example, for me, it really helped me develop things like interpersonal skills, communication skills, stakeholder management, like dealing with other people, all of these skills, which 9 times out of 10 in a job interview you will get a question on them. They're very classic job interview questions, and the youth council helped me just evidence that I was capable of all these different skills but develop them at the same time. So I think one of the biggest things, like for example, we did a project once which the youth council was given sole ownership of, and we got to decide what we wanted to do it on and what we wanted to do with it. and then it was going to be presented to the mayor of Tower Hamlets at the time. So during that, we were dealing with, well, firstly, we was dealing with each other, which is quite difficult when you're 15. But we then we did some initial research where we went and had meetings with the police and local other young people and things like that. And lots of the time, everybody's got very different opinions. So you're dealing with conflict a lot and managing it. Again, another great skill that is very handy to talk about. So yeah, not to plug youth council there, but that was really, really great for me. And I even had, when I joined the MOD, I had one of the women who interviewed me. She came up to me and she said to me, I still remember everything you said about youth council. I thought it was so amazing, some of the projects you've been part of. And I was just like, wow, if little me could see that, how helpful this would be in the future. So yeah, there's that aspect of things, how volunteering has helped me there specifically. I just think it's super helpful when you I didn't have any formal job experience besides I had hospitality experience because I used to work in a bar, but I hadn't had any like other formal job experience. And I think volunteering just really gives you that bank of evidence to draw on in interviews, which can separate you from other candidates who may just be drawing on, I don't know, university experience or experience at school. It does just set you apart a bit. So yeah, and I think going about getting it can be quite daunting. So for me, I was very lucky. The youth council came to my school and said, who wants to join? So I immediately signed up. And then other means of volunteering, I've had family members who have worked for charities. So I'd say definitely draw on those strings where you think that you can. Another major thing that I would say as well, that I found super helpful, is getting a LinkedIn account and just not Googling, but like searching up on LinkedIn the company you want to work for, organizations that you want to work for, and then looking at people who either had the type of role you want to do or just even work for the company. They may not even have to have the role that you want, and messaging them and just explaining the situation you're in and what you're trying to do, and if they've got any tips, advice, or even if you can go and shadow them, because 9 times out of 10 people are so more than willing to help. Even most of the time they may not necessarily be able to help you out with the experience, but just getting those tips and tricks on what can help you out. So yeah.
Fab, thanks, Lucy. Yeah, I think what you're saying there about some of the skills and experiences you took apart are really interesting. Just kind of like with what Katy said, you're meeting different stakeholders. You're speaking with senior people that you might not otherwise have the opportunity to, and that's a really great thing to talk about in an interview. It's really interesting as well. You're saying how one of your colleagues pulled you aside and said that's what she remembers you for. So it's really interesting as well how sharing a story like that can be so memorable and stick in people's minds, and really find that connection with. How, just going back to sort of the early application process, and you were saying it was quite disheartening, you were doing lots of job applications. What kind of advice would you give to people who are in that sort of situation?
I think what I would firstly say is don't take it personally. Most of the time, unfortunately, people put out jobs and they might have already pre-hired somebody, but they have to go through the official process, or there's like an abundance of reasons why you are not going to be picked for a certain role. So I'd say try your best to not taking it personally and don't get disheartened by it, even though the initial stages is just a bit crap when you're putting so much time and effort. But also, I think that is the main piece of advice I would say, is just don't take it personally, keep going as much as you can, and almost try and take away from each one, like try and figure out if you even would have wanted to work for that company as well, because I was like churning out applications and I'd get rejected, and then I'd take a step back and be like, would I even wanted that role anyway? Probably not. Like, I think I was applying for that for the sake of it. So just try and look for those silver linings, because most of the times you will find them.
Fabulous, thank you. So yeah, if you have any questions for Katy or Lucy, please put them in the chat. We've got a Q&A at the end, and we'll come back and have another conversation with both of them at the end as well. So I'm just going to bring up my screen once more and just move on to the next section. So the next section that we have is on networking. Lucy already touched upon this as well in terms of reaching out to people on LinkedIn. But networking, if you haven't heard the term before, it's basically meeting people who might be useful to you within your career, especially sort of within the industry that you're interested in. And people often think it's a skill that comes later in your career, once you're established, once you've made a name for yourself, you know, you've got that brand and experience behind you. But actually, it's really, really key and can be really helpful very early on in your career and open many sort of doors that you might not have otherwise, you know, looked into. So even without having the right work experience, if you know the right people, they believe in you as a person, it can really give you the boost to kind of secure the role and maybe even bypass the traditional application route. So I've just got a slide here on a statistic. Now this is quite an old statistic. This is from 2016, and there's lots of debate about how accurate this statistic is, but in a 2016 survey, some research was done that suggested 85% of jobs, so nearly 9 in 10 people got their jobs through informal channels. Now, what informal channels means is by having somebody who knew them, who then was able to help them get into that role. So you might have heard of the phrase of it's not what you know, it's who you know. And this survey was certainly suggested that that phrase is accurate and true. And it can be really hard to find work and opportunities, particularly in the industry that you're interested in, if you don't have contacts and connections within that industry already to help you, you know, build your experience, give you advice, and get your foot through the door. So this is really, really sort of why networking can be so key in terms of who your network can be. So people, first people that we tend to think of is friends and family. So really great place to start when building your professional network. You'll likely have friends and family in a range of diverse careers. Perhaps your family will be able to help you, especially thinking back at school with, you know, very short-term work experience, bringing you into their office so you can see their workplace, that kind of thing. There's also LinkedIn. As Lucy mentioned, LinkedIn's a really great platform, social media for professional networking and posting, and it's a really great place to making connections with professionals who you might not have met before and have similar pathways and interests to you. And the other one is your academics, so your teachers, fellow students, mentors, your careers team, amongst others, are a big network of academic people that you can take advantage of. And as to why these people can help you, well, not only can they vouch for sort of your attitudes and credentials, particularly when you're asking for a reference, you can ask your teachers to write a reference for you, attesting that you are a good student, you're very punctual, you always turned up on time, you always meet deadlines, that kind of thing. Particularly if you wanted to get into a specific industry and you know what it is you want to do, you just need to get your foot through the door. If you can find somebody in that industry, as Lucy mentioned, they'll be able to help guide you. Things like, is there a specific recruitment website for that industry? For example, the charity sector has several charity-specific recruitment websites, that kind of thing. They might be able to connect you to somebody who's doing a role that you're interested in, and they can put you in touch. You can have a discussion with them, maybe investigate whether that is the right role for you, that kind of thing. But also, if you can start building your circle, they will know sort of within their industry, what kind of opportunities are available, who's recruiting right now, who isn't, who's a good company to work for, who perhaps isn't, that kind of thing. And they might be able to fast track you on an application as well. If nothing else, it can help you find mentors and role models, like Lucy mentioned, you know, just helping you get through the door, helping guide you, coach you into where is the best place to go when getting entry. So, you know, when we first think of family and friends, we often think, oh, we can't use them as a professional reference. No, perhaps not. Maybe not if you're wanting a professional reference. You know, they're a bit biased. They can't give you that character reference, but they might be able to help connect you to somebody in the business, or maybe pull some strings and help you get in that way. If you don't have family and friends in the places that you're looking for, LinkedIn is a really great place to connect with those professionals. You can search job titles, you can search company names. There's also lots of LinkedIn groups as well. Our alumni program also has its own LinkedIn group, just to plug that in, and that's a really great space. We share a lot of the opportunities that we have, and a really great place for you to connect with some of the professionals who are recruiting within that. So that's just a little bit about why networking is useful. We do have some resources on our alumni portal as well about how to best leverage your networks. I could do a whole session on this here today, but things, some advice and examples that are in there are, you know, how to approach somebody on LinkedIn, how to present yourself, how would you introduce yourself to somebody who is in the field that you've never met before, that kind of thing, and where to go to expand your network. So if you're interested in that, there's a QR code on there, but if you sign up to our alumni network as well, you'll be able to find it in our resource library. So that is the network section, sort of in a nutshell. If you do have any questions about that, again, please put them in the chat. Myself or Lucy and Katy can answer those for you. Lovely. And then moving on to writing your CV. So you might think it's strange that we're writing about and speaking about this in a webinar that's titled Finding Work, but CV is obviously the key part of any job application, and for a lot of people when they're applying for jobs, this is sort of the stumbling block. This is where they really struggle to write about their skills and experiences, and it can be what lets their application down. And figuring out how to fill your CV if you don't have any work experience can seem really daunting. That page might look quite blank and you don't know how to fill it. And that can sort of give people a lot of anxiety. So this is to kind of reassure you that there's lots of things that you can put in your CV and different strategies of things that you can put in. So I'm sure many of you know, as a CV is typically made up of prior work experience, and you'll be building it up as you go through your career. But we can put in all those activities that we mentioned earlier into the CV to really bulk it up and demonstrate that you've got those skills. So in terms of what you can put in your CV, particularly when you're applying at entry level, that introduction paragraph is really, really key, specifically putting in what you hope to achieve through applying for work. They want to understand your goals and ambitions, but also really great space to demonstrate that you've researched the company as well. Education, if you haven't got work experience, education will be a key part of your CV. List all the qualifications and training you've received and any skills you gained whilst doing them. So if you have postgraduate degrees, undergraduate degrees, A-levels, GCSEs, put them all on there, as well as any special side projects that you might have done as part of them. And as well as any other sort of online courses, any other certificates, first aid training, fire marshal training, that kind of thing that you might have done, and put that on there as well. Key skills, it depends which job you're going for, but you want to highlight which key skills that you have and where you've demonstrated them. Things to consider might be languages, how good you are with computer software, confidence in public speaking, that kind of thing. And then the one that I always really push is hobbies and interests. So this tends to drop off as you get further in your career. People feel like they need to fill their CV with all their listing their experience and achievements. But I always really strongly encourage people to have hobbies and interests section at the bottom of their CV. And And that is because that is what sets you apart from other candidates. It's what makes you interesting. It's what makes you individual. If you have, if you're on a level playing field with everybody else who has the exact same degree as you, maybe exact same qualification as you, you'll set yourself apart because you're doing different hobbies and interests inside and outside of work. So like Lucy mentioned, you know, that working in the youth council really sparked and was memorable for that recruiter. Things like that is what's going to set you apart. As well, perhaps even just setting common ground. If the recruiter has a similar hobby as you, they might feel you know, more positive towards you because of that. So always have hobbies and interests would be my advice. And then things to keep in mind when writing the CV. So a lot of the questions when you're first writing your CV is how long does an employer look at it? How long should it be? How well written should it be? And should it be tailored to this role you're applying for? So this perhaps is quite familiar to you already, but the average employer spends around 6 to 7 seconds looking at your CV, so very short amount of time. Likely only going to read, look at the formatting and read the personal statement before moving on as well, before putting it either in the yes, maybe or no pile. Generally speaking, recruiters suggest 2 pages is perfect length for a CV. If you're starting out in entry-level roles, though, I would strongly recommend you stick it to 1 page only. This is because you don't necessarily need to bulk it out when it's obvious you don't have a lot of experience. In terms of how well written a CV should be, it needs to be perfect. It needs to be grammatically correct. It needs to be proofread, and it needs to look good. 70% of recruiters discard CV with any errors in. And if you're on that playing field where it's so competitive, if a recruiter is getting thousands of applicants and sees yours with a grammatical error, it's going to go straight in the bin because that's a very quick way to filter out applicants. And then should your CV be tailored to the role you're applying for? Yes, absolutely. 60% of employers prefer CVs that are tailored to the role. So this is definitely one of the things that I didn't realize when I first started applying. I just thought you had one CV that you submitted to everybody because that was your experience. But actually what you want to be doing is looking at the job role, picking out what the key skills, and making sure you're evidencing that within your CV, making sure that they can find the exact things that the job is looking for within that CV, and that it's easy to read and easy to find. So our top tips in terms of CVs. So the first one is try a skills-based CV. So you might have heard of this term before, maybe you haven't, but a skills-based CV is a CV that places emphasis on your transferable skills as opposed to your work history. So typically they're used by those for entry-level people, for people who don't have much practical experience in industry, but also by people who are looking to change careers, or maybe an applicant who's looking to turn a hobby or a passion into a job. So maybe you enjoy Photoshop, you know, in your free time, and you're looking to turn that into a job. This is the kind of CV that you might use. So the difference between this and your traditional CV, so if you have a look on the picture on the right-hand side, you've got sections 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, this is a skills-based CV. In a traditional CV, your experience, section number 4, would go before section number 3. Section number 3, you're just going to expand it. You're going to bring it forwards before your work experience in education, just to really highlight that and you know, emphasize that, okay, I don't have a lot of work experience, but these are my skills. And really focus on your skills, how you've developed them as opposed to where you gained them. So it's less important about what companies you worked for, what industries, but what are the skills and how you gained them. Again, 1 page is absolutely plenty. If you go over that, consider condensing it. For particularly entry-level roles where you might not have as much experience, don't feel the need to go overboard. An employer's more likely to look at a 1-page clean document than they are a full 2nd-page document. And again, make sure it's tailored and make sure it's proofread. All really simple tips, but perhaps ones that you might not have considered before. So again, I could do a full workshop on CV writing, and we do that sometimes. So I'm not going to go into it too much here, but if you have any questions on the skills-based CV, please let me know. We've also got some links here for you to go have a look at CV templates, CVs examples. We've got some examples of what we consider to be good CVs and poorer CVs. And we also have a link to our CV builder there. So our CV builder is an online tool that you can use if you don't have a CV already. It's an online form. You can put all your information, education, and sort of work experience and skills in there. And what that will do is it will automatically transform it and output it into a Word document template that will be sent to you. And then you can finesse it and do minor edits at the end. Again, all these resources can be found on our website at alumni.theswitch.org. So I'm coming to the end of our main topic session now, but I just wanted to give a few last top tips that perhaps I haven't covered before. The first being, please be kind to yourself. I know I was maybe doomsaying at the beginning of the webinar by explaining sort of the workplace scenario. And it will take persistence to get your foot in the door. So be patient with it, keep going, believe in yourself, and also be kind to yourself as well. It is competitive, but you are a really good candidate, and you have to believe in yourself as well. My second tip as well is to be open-minded. A lot of the times the entry-level roles, you're not going to get the ideal job that you want straight off the mark, and that's absolutely fine. You don't need the perfect work experience straight away, and it's not forever. It's not going to be your forever job. But if you get work experience in whatever industry, whatever it is, it will be good experience because you'll be learning transferable skills. You'll be learning what it's like to be in the workplace, be in an office space, maybe be in retail. You'll be getting on-hand experience that you can then use to transfer into other roles. And it doesn't need to be perfect. You will learn as you go, and your career will grow and develop. And maybe you'll change your mind as well as you go through and try different things. And then lastly, be proactive. Like Lucy said, you have to seek out those opportunities. You have to put yourself out there, approach your network, maybe step out of your comfort zone and introduce yourself to people who you don't know. But certainly don't wait for the opportunities to come for you. Keep going, keep trying things, and maybe as well approach companies sort of outside application windows as well if you're really, really keen to work there. Fabulous. So that roughly brings us to the end of our sort of topic session and content. We're now going to move on to a Q&A. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for now. Fabulous. Okay, so do we have any questions already? So we've got Elizabeth who has said, interested in doing work experience as English as a second language tutor as a volunteer, but seen as not able to. Okay. Got a job with LinkedIn and tutor. Okay. So guys, do you have any advice on dealing with rejections? I open this to both Katy and Lucy, particularly perhaps to Lucy, as you've been in this sort of position before where you're dealing with rejections. What advice do you have to people who have been applying and not getting very far?
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Sorry, I don't know what is going on with my camera, and there we go. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just echoing what I was saying earlier about how you just have to, it is easier said than done, but you just can't take it personally, because at the end of the day, like, you can't get every job you apply to, and like what was said at the beginning, it's such a hard market at the moment. So I would say just try your best to take a step back and just realize it's nothing personal. It may not even be that there's like a better candidate. Like, so many of these jobs, they don't even read your application. They'll hire someone and then they'll just write off everyone else. And like I was saying earlier, there's an abundance of reasons of why you may have got rejected. So you can just take comfort in all these other reasons why. It's nothing personal. So yeah. And then also, like I was saying earlier, is really think about whether that would have been a job you'd like to do anyway. Because sometimes it's a blessing in disguise you didn't get it.
Thank you, Lucy. That's a really great answer. Yeah, definitely. Sometimes, you know, when rejections happen, it's about seeing that the grass is greener, seeing that maybe that opportunity wasn't the right one for you, and onto bigger and better things, definitely. Katy, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, Lucy definitely covered it. I would say when it comes to rejection, if you feel like confident and comfortable enough, definitely email them or contact them for some feedback as well. It depends on what stage you're at. So if it was you wasn't invited to interview, that might be a bit difficult, totally understandable. But if you don't ask, you don't get. If it was after interview stage, definitely request for that feedback, because it might be something that you're unaware of, or something, as Lucy said, it might not be a fault of your own. It's just something that they've had someone in mind. First, my camera was off. They've had someone in mind, and they've just had to do due diligence of putting that recruitment out there. I'll be honest, I've been guilty of it. Not recruiting, but being a person that they've recruited. So I've said previously in other sort of calls I've been on that at SpotLigh is the first official job that I've actually applied for. All the other, I'm 27 years old, and all the other jobs I've just gotten through networking, in which 2 of those jobs had to put out a job just for like HR processes. And again, it sucks when that happens and you're at the other end of it, but at the same time, when you are networking and you are building a great reputation, it does fill you with great confidence to know that people are invested in you as a character from the get-go.
Amazing, thank you. Yeah, I want to say that's a fabulous point, a really, really great point about asking for the feedback, particularly if it's a role that you're certain that you want to go into and you've been rejected. Asking for that feedback can help you identify where you need to improve. So whether that's, you know, maybe you didn't interview so well that day, how can you improve in your interview technique? But maybe it's perhaps a gap in your experience or your knowledge, and that will help you identify areas where you can improve, ways that you can go across and maybe find that online course that you need to do in a certain subject. Absolutely. Fabulous. We have a question. What's the best way and most successful way to network on LinkedIn apart from just connecting or following professionals or potential employers? I'll open this to both of you again, if I may. How, Katy, did you do most of your networking on LinkedIn, or was that in person? And do you have any advice in terms of LinkedIn?
I'll be honest, I don't have any social media whatsoever. I have been told about the great benefits of LinkedIn, and I am considering it. This month is my deadline to say whether it's a yes or no for LinkedIn. All of my networking has been in person, and just taking a leap of faith, really, and speaking to someone. And as you said earlier, Abigail, it's just finding something that, like a conversation topic that aligns with somebody that I want to kind of break in conversation with. And so, no, I don't have LinkedIn, but it's got me this far so far.
Fabulous. Lucy, what about you? I know you say you've done a fair bit of networking on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I mean, I've never like got a job off it or anything like that, but I have looked at the companies that I would be interested in working in and directly messaged them and literally outright said, what can I do to get a position at this company? So I would say doing that. And also to be honest, LinkedIn can be a bit relentless because you're just seeing everyone's success stories all the time. So it can be a bit disheartening as well. But I would say making an effort to follow all the companies and organizations that you're interested in, because lots of the time these companies can just post their job vacancies straight to LinkedIn, either before they post it on an official website or something like that. So that's also a useful way. Or they just post different opportunities because it's so easy for them to just press send and go. Yeah. So yeah.
Amazing, thank you. Yeah, I'll chip in here as well because I feel quite strongly about LinkedIn. I think it's a really great tool. I understand, you know, why people may not like it, but it's a really great way not just to actively network, but passively network as well. So like Lucy mentioned, following companies that you're interested in gets you in with those circles. So you'll know first when there's a new job application, job role opening, or you'll know when they're hosting a networking event, for example. So that's a really great way to kind of find out what's happening in the industries that you're interested in, not just connecting with professionals. Passively as well, if you can be posting about what you're doing. I find it a little bit cringy sometimes to be posting about what I'm doing, but it's a really great way to demonstrate with images and photos what you're doing sort of inside work and outside of work, maybe some of the projects that you're working on, any great achievements, that kind of thing. I certainly know when we're recruiting candidates, I do have a look at them beforehand on LinkedIn, seeing what they're up to, and it's a really nice sort of more informal way of seeing who they are as a person that you can't really get from a CV. So that I would say that's a really great way to network on LinkedIn as well. Brilliant. I've got a message from Krishna saying, is there any way I can volunteer with the Switch? Yes, absolutely. So most of our volunteering through schools is done through corporate businesses. However, if you're a young person, aged 16 to 25, we do recruit for alumni ambassadors as well. So these are young people like Lucy who come into our webinars and our workshops, talk to young people about their career pathways as well. So I'll certainly send out some information about that as well if you're interested after the webinar. Lovely. So I've just got some questions on the Q&A functions as well. What are some common mistakes to avoid when networking for job opportunities? That's a really interesting question. Lucy or Katie, I'm again opening this to both of you. Do you have any ideas, common mistakes to avoid when networking for job opportunities?
Sure. So there's quite a few ways to approach networking. I'm going to speak mainly for in-person. Perhaps Lucy can do both, or online, because again, I'm mainly networking person. It's reading the room. It sounds really basic, but often, and I do this with my young people, I'll give you an example actually. There was a board meeting for the housing association I work with a few weeks back. And I brought some of my young people along with me, and one of them was a volunteer. And I told my young people, my volunteer, to use this opportunity to network for yourselves and make connections. Now, the way in which I told them to do that is to read the interaction. So if there's two people, for example, speaking, and it's like face on, then it's not really an invite to kind of insert yourself into that sort of conversation, because they might have been talking about something a little bit more private, something more exclusive. It's usually when it's about three or more, it's more comfortable. Obviously, if someone's by themselves as well, is where you would have more luck in inserting yourself into that sort of conversation. I will add, in terms of breaking into conversations, it might sound a bit creepy, but see if you can walk around 2 to 3 times just to pick up a little bit of what they're talking about first. So if you're picking up that they're talking about a specific case or something really niche that you're not able to contribute to, I would say leave it until you see the dynamic change, whether that person you want to speak to walks away, or if somebody else adds to the conversation, or topic of conversation changes. Now, if you hear them talking about, for example, the event, it's really casual, really general, or I don't know, something that happened the day before that was national news, and you know, okay, I can actually contribute to that sort of conversation, then definitely enter that. Don't enter that with inserting your opinions or your thoughts straight away. Is definitely be where to like a listening ear, do the head nods, and when you're ready to kind of share your piece, that's when you come with those, you know, those subtle sounds like, yeah, totally agree. That's when you know you kind of have the floor to speak. And the way I would do it, say someone's talking about, I don't know, the king's birthday, I'll be nodding along saying, yeah, and it's like, oh, yeah, it's wonderful that he's celebrating, I don't know how old he is, like his 90th birthday. And for the person that I want to network to, say if it was Abigail in that conversation, I would directly put a question to Abigail. It's like, oh, did you manage to see it on TV? So then Abigail was now interacting with me, and now she's noticing me. And sometimes two things can happen, is that now myself and Abigail would have a kind of like one-on-one conversation, and other people naturally kind of walk away, or other people start inserting that conversation. But because I've caught Abigail's attention, I can now, whenever Abigail is about, I can just be like, oh yeah, Abigail, let me can I just touch base with you for a second? So that's in terms of networking in person, and how you can break yourselves into conversations. If it was an awkward position, let's say like, I don't know, you just saw them in office and you're just heading off somewhere quickly, just try to catch them, but know you have to be short and snappy. So I've always been told when doing speeches, which I feel like is relevant to networking, if you're not going to be quick, be funny. So that's just something I'll leave you. So you know you're not going to be quick and you know you can't be funny, wait for a time where you have that space and that time to really introduce yourself. And something that I always tell my young people, my VITs, is that always come with 3 fun facts about yourself. Just 3. And it can be anything totally random. My fun fact is always that I wear pink every single day, just to pique someone's curiosity, because people invest in people, not in paper. So just because they're reading your CV doesn't mean they're like automatically this person's amazing. That's why most people don't get the jobs. It's because when they meet the person, it doesn't really match the energy they give off on their CV. So those are my little tips and tricks. Again, happy to answer any further questions.
That was fabulous, thank you. There's a lot of good tips there that I've never heard of, so I'll definitely be taking those on board as well. Lucy, is there anything you want to add to that at all? How do you find networking?
To be honest, I felt like I was learning that. I don't think I've got much more to add. I found that really helpful. Yeah, honestly, I don't really have too much to add. I think I would say, like, just to echo what's already been said, is definitely try and show those skills and those aspects of you that you can't really show on a CV. So like those very interpersonal, chatty, friendly, smiley, that kind of side, that like no matter how capable you are of the job, you can't get that across on a CV. I think maybe use that as an opportunity to showcase those kinds of skills. But yeah, other than that, Katy definitely covered more than enough.
Fabulous, thank you. Brilliant. So I think we've got time for just one more question. So I'm just going to have a quick look and pick one. Should you ever lie about having work experience? That's a really fun question. Again, I open it to both of you if either of you would like to chime in on this one.
I mean, I would never lie about having gone somewhere you've never worked at or doing something. Like, I can't code. I don't know how to code anything. So I would never say I can code, because if that gets pulled up, then I simply will be stuck. But, and I don't know if this is good advice or not, but I have like milked what I've done, but like I've known that I can do it. So sometimes I've said I've worked in a bigger team, maybe when it was a smaller team, but I know I very well could have easily worked in a bigger team. And like I'm more than capable to work in a bigger team. So I would never lie if it's genuinely something you cannot do and you don't feel like you can do. But if you feel like, I would say, if you have exhibited it and you just need to like push it that tiny bit further, I personally have done that. But that's just my own experience. I don't want to tell people to lie or anything like that.
No, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, maybe white lies, maybe exaggerating what you've done, but not outright lying. Yeah, absolutely. For sure. Katy, anything you want to add to that?
No, Lucy covered that perfectly. I would say though, if work experience is something that you're a little bit not confident on when it comes to translating CV, always put the thing you're most confident or happiest with in your CV. So whether that's your voluntary experience, whether that's your work experience, whether that's your education, always put the thing you're most happiest with at the top, so that when it comes down to lying about work experience or not lying about work experience, you're not too bothered about, because you know you've got a strong start.
Amazing, perfect. Thank you both so much. Lovely. So there's about 10 minutes left on the webinar now. So what we're going to do now is my colleagues are just going to put in a link to our feedback form. If you could please fill that in, that would be fabulous. What we do with that is just use that feedback to kind of demonstrate our impact, but also understand what it is our alumni want to hear from? Do you want more webinars on topics like these? Is there anything that we covered today that you'd like to know more of, or perhaps something that you didn't? That would be fabulous. And in the meantime, I'm just going to explain a little bit more about where you can go to for extra resources. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, this webinar has been run under the umbrella of our alumni network, and our alumni network is primarily aimed at young people aged 16 to 25 from Tower Hamlets and wider East London. And how this can benefit you if you're looking for work right now and maybe having some troubles is we can offer you opportunities to network and get into work. So we run things like insight days, networking events at companies. Over the past sort of couple of months, we've done one with the brand design company, done one with the marketing company, and again, we're going to a consulting group later on next month. So all really great opportunities to network with staff and perhaps grab yourself a job offer then and there on the day. But we've also got access to information resources. So on our alumni portal, we have a library full of resources. Those were all the QR code links that I was signposting earlier in the webinar. So you can access the full library there. We also have an opportunities board. So if you're struggling to find work experience, we post a lot of the opportunities that come through us, and we have really strong relationships with those employers as well. So if it's something that you're really keen to apply to, you can get in touch with us, and sometimes we offer things like interview preparation support for specific roles, and understanding what the role entails seminars as well. So that's the kind of extra support you can get through us by looking at the opportunity board. Also connecting with fellow students, so fellow alumni who have taken part in our programs before, maybe are perhaps in the jobs now, like Lucy. We can connect you to them so they can help guide you, give you advice on where to find work experience or job listings for that specific industry. We can connect you to people like that. Just in general, improving your employment prospects. Just a little humble brag as well. So we work with over 600 companies. Some of those are included here. So law firms like Clifford Chance, Bank of England, KPMG, places like that as well. So there's a variety of different companies that we work with across 10 different industries, not just in Tower Hamlets and East London, but across the city as well. So if you are interested and would like to sign up, you can scan the QR code there or visit alumni.theswitch.org. You just need to fill in a few details. All the services are completely free. All we do is to help you into the workplace. So if there's something on there as well that you are looking for in particular, let us know and we can help direct you to the right place for that. And that is it for today. So yeah, all that's left to say is a big thank you to you guys for attending, but also to our panelists, Lucy and Katy. Thank you so much for taking your time out today. And wrapping up sort of 5 minutes early, which is just perfect. Get ready for the evening and for a nice dinner. So yeah, thank you all very, very much. Katy says, opportunities for those wanting tech and finance career. Fabulous. Will you send those across, Katy? Yeah, perfect. So yeah, I'll send those out after the event if you're interested in that.